Wendy, the recording is in process. We're back and we're doing it today. Is
Yep.
Thursday, November 14th, Wendy. We're
Yep.
cruising through the year. We're cruising through the year. Thanksgiving's a couple of weeks away. We in Alabama, we have had very little cold weather.
Right.
Typically, cold weather is the signaling of fall and winter and holidays. We have had no cold weather, zero
Right.
cold weather. So, Wendy, how are you doing today, and what is going on in Knoxville, Tennessee?
Well, first off, big shout out to Christopher Lee Jarday. His birthday is today. He is 17 years old. So very excited about that. Happy birthday, Christopher. Trey, we got rain. It's finally starting to get a little cold up here. Today it's going to be 60. So we're kind of in a different, that cold spell's about to kind of start coming through here. Um, Obviously getting ready for my favorite time of the year, which is Christmas. So, I mean, I love Thanksgiving for the food, but I'm really ready for Christmas. So, just getting ready for the holidays, man.
If you have not listened to this show before, my name's Trey Davis. This is my sister, Wendy. Wendy and I love to get on here and talk about college football, a lot of SEC football, amongst other things. You can also get this. We were Trey and Wendy, What's My Sister on One.
Yep.
Then we have changed the show. We had some people that listened and said it's just too hard to find. We changed it to Fourth and Wendy. So
Yep.
she's Wendy. She's the one that gets on one. She
Yep.
stays lit. And so it's
Lit.
all under Fourth and Wendy. You can check it on YouTube and you can check it on podcast too. I do it on podcast too. Sometimes it goes out a little bit earlier on podcast, but it's Fourth and Wendy. Appreciate everybody for listening. Wendy, we're at like
Yeah.
73 subscribers.
Right.
And it's not that we do this for subscribers because we
Yeah.
don't. We really don't. But I really would like to have at least 100 subscribers.
Right.
I'm serious. The 70 is cool. The 73
Right.
people, hey, I like it. I'd love to get
Right.
to 100. It just is better than 73. So if
Okay.
you're not listening to this, like, subscribe. We typically put this out once a week during football season, maybe a couple throughout the year. All right, Wendy. And also Will and Bear. Will and Bear have been lit up in the chat. What's up, Will and Bear?
Okay.
Here we go. Get to the
Okay.
point,
Let's do it.
Trey.
Yep.
Alabama LSU played football last weekend, Wendy, and the board's coming out. Alabama, the classic LS Who roll
LS
tide.
who?
Wendy comes out with the LS Who roll tide. That's a classic saying. Wendy, let me get this out. Alabama beats LSU 42-13. Wendy, Death Valley. The light show at Death Valley looks good. I mean, we
Yep.
didn't get to see inside the stadium until the kickoff because the lights were off. They're
Right.
flashing on and off. I don't know that I really like that part of it. The stadium did look good with the purple. Wendy, Alabama goes out there and wins the game 42-13. What is up, Wendy? Tell me your thoughts.
Okay, well, first off, it was also raining. So I mean, this is like prime time. You sit down to watch the game and you're like, if it's not our week, this could go bad quick, right? We've got a wet field. We've got questions on the quarterback if he can play in a big game and what first, second, third play, penalty for delay a game. So it's
First
like,
play.
here we go. First play. So here we go, Trey. I'm just like, well, maybe we can win by a few, right? Well, Trey, let me tell you something. His name is Jalen Milrow, and I don't know what that kid's 100 is and what he runs, but that kid, from the very first play to the very last play, he ruled that game. I mean, Trey, we were able to get it done with our feet. Why throw it, right? Why change what's working? It was a phenomenal game. Our defense, once again, y'all, our defense is leveling up. I mean, from the beginning of the year to this time, we're really heating up in this November stretch. So our defense was absolutely on fire. Offense was doing all the right things. Run game, which a lot of times Trey and I say, just run the ball, right? There's been multiple games we've been in, and I'm like, why don't we just run the ball, right?
Right.
We ran the ball on Saturday. We ran the ball for 6 touchdowns. So, and 4 of them being for Milrow. We look good, guys, for it being an away game, a loud environment. I mean, I think they started rolling out of there, those LSU fans, about the beginning of the third quarter. So, I mean, that is what I wanted to see as an Alabama fan. Can he go into a really hard environment, a night game, LSU loud, out in the rain, out in the bad the field conditions, and can he go in here and get this thing done, and can he get it done convincingly? And y'all, he did. So roll tide. What'd you see, Trey?
Wendy, Wendy.
Yeah,
The first, I'm looking for the program. I can't find the program. I think I'm organized. I'm not
you're
organized.
not.
I can't
You're
find the
not.
program that I want to see because I really want to shout out our number 11 on defense.
Okay.
Is it Rashid? Is it?
I
Find
mean,
out who number 11 is. He deserves to have his name called out, as does a lot of other players on our football team. Alabama, Wendy, from the word go, really controlled the game. Wendy, we on the first snap, Alabama gets a false start, and I'm like, okay, well, it's comical at this point.
Campbell.
Campbell
Campbell. Jaheed Campbell.
or Jihad Campbell, number 11, what's up?
Yes.
You were
What's
down
up?
and dirty this week. You were
Yep.
rocking and rolling. A lot of Alabama players, but that number 11 really seemed to be all over the place when it really mattered. But when we get the first play of the game, it's a false start, and it's kind of comical.
Yeah.
Then we move to the leg kick with the guard tapping the center, then the leg kick coming up. It seemed to work a lot better.
Yep.
I'm not sure if Alabama has tried that before. I don't understand why that would take, I don't know, 2.5 years to figure out. Cool, you got it figured out. Alabama looked good when they did what we said they needed to do: possess the ball. They had some long drives. They picked up some
Yep.
crucial third downs. And Wendy,
Yep.
LSU just could not stop a running quarterback. It is helpless if you're LSU trying to stop him. Jalen Milrow did what he had to do. It felt more like an old school Alabama football game. Maybe
Yep.
not necessarily with the quarterback running as much. We haven't seen that at Alabama a lot, but just controlling the ball, running the
Mhm.
football. Jam Miller and Justice Hayes, great running backs. I really
Yep.
like our two running backs. They really do a good job. I was telling somebody earlier this week, Wendy, they play football. And what I mean by that is you don't see them like not doing anything. I mean, most of the time, these
Right.
backs, they're picking up somebody coming in blitzing. They're chipping
Right.
somebody. They're running really hard. They're not showboating out there. They're not
Right.
complaining. They get the ball and they run the ball. Love our two running backs, Wendy. And that's really what I saw. And Alabama dominated the game. And as an Alabama fan, that's what you wanted to see.
Well, and I want to call out Bray Hubbard, this backup. What is he? A safety that we put in?
Yes,
Our
who's
our,
back?
our
Yeah,
Guess who's back? Alabama's back, y'all. Bama's back, but I'm going to tell you something. This Bray Hubbard kid is coming in lights out. He's all over this field. He took his opportunity when he got his opportunity, and he is showing out for the University of Alabama. And I appreciate you, Hubbard. You're playing great, but Trey, the big thing is we knew we had to get through this game to even have a shot of getting through this 12 team playoff. And we did. We've still got Oklahoma. We've still got Auburn. I know they're not playing great this year, but it's still an SEC team. Oklahoma's away. Tennessee is, I mean, Auburn's at home. I think Oklahoma's away. Yeah, it is.
it
So
is.
we've just, we've got a few more things coming up, but right now we're kind of riding that plateau back up a little bit, and we're about to hit the curb. Real quick shout out to our sister, Gina Mueller. So after the Tennessee game, Gina Mueller decided she's not watching the Alabama games anymore. She gets too twerked up. She gets too worked up, Trey. Every single game that Gina has not watched, we've won. So, Gina, we appreciate you because I'm very, very, very superstitious. So, way to go. Way to figure out something to do during those playing times. She actually, Trey, watches it after it's over.
Okay.
So, good
Okay.
job, Gina. Good job, Gina.
Sacrificing for the team, Gina. Now, listen, as Nick Saban once said, this is not the end. This is the beginning.
Right.
We have seen this before with a huge win earlier in the year against Georgia, and everybody,
Yep.
oh, yeah, we got it. We cruising. There is no such thing as cruising in college football anymore,
Right.
Wendy. Alabama has to be on point every single game.
Mhm.
This is going to be the effort of this is the real challenge of our players and of our coaches. I think we know it is in there. Can they maintain it throughout the rest of the season in some bigger
Yes.
games? And even if they don't look big on paper, they are big games. Any of
Yes.
these teams really can beat us. I think we're going to be okay with Mercer, but we go out there and dominate them. All right,
Right.
Wendy, let's move on to the Georgia Bulldogs and the Ole Miss Rebels. Wendy, I missed part
Mhm.
of this game, dropping off the kids, but I saw most of this game. Wendy, Georgia loses this football game 10-28 was the score that I got. I think it's
Yep.
an 18-point win by Ole Miss. Most of the game that I saw, Wendy, Ole Miss really dominated all facets of the game, and Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and basketball dunk you seem
Yep.
to have figured it out and won a big game. Wendy,
Well, I mean, first off, you didn't say you're right. So last week you called I called for Ole Miss, you called for Georgia.
very
And
good
what did
point.
I tell you? It depends on which quarterback plays better. And I told you that I felt like Dart was playing better at the quarterback position. Once again, he is. Listen, guys, I'm sure that if Kirby Smart walked into my room right now and said, Wendy, the it was a missed assignment. It was this. I'm not taking away from that. I'm not saying it's all Carson Beck, but fundamentally, Carson Beck is playing a lot worse than Dart was, and you saw that throughout this entire game. If he got something going, he'd throw an interception. If he got something going, Ole Miss would get the ball back and go down there and find a way to score. So at the end of the day, it's almost like Lane Kiffin had his team more ready to play than Kirby Smart did. And this is a hot topic. And I love Barry, and I've actually got other people that I love that root for Georgia. You know, guys, I've said it for years. If you go back and listen, I really feel like Georgia's schedule over the last few years has been very, very easy. Not to say they didn't win the big games that they had, but they didn't have a lot of big games. And this year, they've had some really big games, and they lost some of their main guys to the draft last year. And I think they're struggling to find those playmakers. I really do. And so at the end of the day, they've had a lot of away games. You know, they've had to go into some harsh environments. But Trey, it's not that they're losing the games. It's kind of like even the games they've won, man, they're not winning those overly convincingly.
Yeah.
So Georgia's got some things to figure out, but it's like I said, Dart showed up, Carson Beck didn't. It was the battle of the quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah, you bring up some good points, and I think I heard Roman Harper talk about this, and it really is kind of, if you look at it, it's Georgia just does not have an identity. Who is
Mhm.
Georgia? I mean, what
Right.
what what do they go into these games knowing they're going to do well? And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that with Georgia this year. Wendy, you have officially froze up. Okay, you're back.
I'm
Um,
back.
you're back. So Georgia's got to find an identity, and they need to do it quick. Wendy, it's
Yep.
hard to be good every single year. It's hard to do this stuff. They have had a brutal schedule. I
Yes.
don't know who made up this schedule. They got a brutal schedule, and I don't care what anybody says. The Florida game in Jacksonville, I still think hurts them because
Right.
it is. I mean, you can say home and away and all this other stuff. It's not. You don't see hardly any big games. We're going to talk about one coming up at their stadium over in Athens. I don't
Right.
think that helps Georgia. They've had a
Right.
tough season. Can Ole Miss keep the train rolling? We will see. Wendy, some other scores from last week in a wild game. Missouri beats Oklahoma in
Wild.
a wild game. Oklahoma had control of the game. Missouri scoops and scores late. Wendy, Texas beats Florida 49-17. Really never a
Yep.
contest.
Yep.
Your boy Army it wins, beats North Texas 14-3. I think they're still undefeated.
So
The
undefeated.
Miami Hurricanes, the U played with fire all year.
Yeah.
When eventually, if you walk by a stove and it's hot and you put your hand on it and you go by a little bit later and it's hot, at some point you're going to get burnt. Miami gets
Yep.
burnt by Georgia Tech. Miami loses 23-28 to Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Big loss there. Wendy,
Yep.
your boys, South Carolina, beats the juggernaut of the Vanderbilt Commodores
Yep.
28-7. Shane Beamer's
Yeah.
got it rolling, and they going bowling.
Yep, they going bowling. And listen, people been sleeping on South Carolina. Everybody but me this year. I've said it from the beginning of the year. Listen, it's an all about me day. I'm gonna be right because I'm so wrong so much. I get names wrong and stats, but if there's anything I know, it's good football. And South Carolina's got something ticking up there. And they've had a few losses that hurt them this year, so I don't know if they're gonna, they can't really crawl their way back into anything. But South Carolina's a really good football team. I'm excited they're going bowling. I'm also excited Vanderbilt's finally going bowling. But the loss to Vanderbilt with Missouri, Trey, Missouri did this same thing with Auburn, almost the exact same way these end of the games fell. Late interception or fumble, and then they run it back for a touchdown. Game's over. So Missouri's gotten pretty lucky in some
Yeah.
of these games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The South Carolina story is really good. The Sellers kid at quarterback has really developed, and I'll
Yep.
tell you what, there's a lot of football teams around this country that would love to have Sellers as a quarterback.
Yep.
As coaches, you have to see what you're, know what you're looking at, and Auburn needs to get it together. Wendy, Tennessee, Mississippi State. Tennessee beats Mississippi State 33-14 in a really good game. I was going back and forth between that game and the Alabama game. The Tennessee game got really chippy. I mean,
Yep.
listen, people talk about the SEC being so hard and all this other stuff. Tennessee still wins the game. But you watch Mississippi State play and win, and they're out there blasting these kids. I mean, it's
Right.
blasting chippy. I hope Tennessee's running back can hold up because they are using him a lot. Nico got hurt in the game, Tennessee's quarterback. We'll see if they can play in next week's game. Wendy, that's last week. We got to get to this week, Wendy.
Yep.
You got anything else to say about last week?
Well, I was going to give you like a tiny accolade, which was you were right about. Remember, I said Mississippi State might have something for Tennessee.
Yeah.
They did not have anything for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Did not have anything.
Yeah,
and
no,
listen, Trey, being up here in Knoxville, it is a 50-50 on Nico starting in that Georgia game. So we shall see. That game looks a lot different if your starting quarterback's not in there.
Yeah, and that's what you watch Nico go out of the Mississippi State game last week. I thought it was a shoulder injury. You don't really know. Then you come out, then you hear it's a concussion problem.
Yep. Yeah.
There's some reports coming out that he's definitely not playing. There's some reports going out that he is at practice. It's a little bit of gamesmanship by Tennessee, Wendy, but that is a huge factor in this game.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and get to this week's games, Wendy. That is the biggest game of the week. Let's go ahead and talk about it. We don't have any time to waste. The Tennessee Volunteers crank up the buses. I think they drive a bus. They might fly in a plane. I don't know how the plane gets there, but they will be in Athens, Georgia, Saturday night, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. Will Nico play? We just talked about it. Can Georgia find an identity? Georgia dominated this game last year. Georgia's dominated Tennessee the past 3 or 4 years. Really hadn't been a contest, Wendy. What is going to happen in Athens, Georgia, where two teams, great defenses, they do have defenses, but have offenses that have something left to be desired? What's going to happen, Wendy?
So, some would say it's going to depend on the quarterback. I do not think it matters which quarterback is in. I think that Georgia's going to win the game. They're at home. They probably feel very slighted by being pulled down to number 12 after the playoff rankings came out. They've got a lot to play for. They recognize they're in kind of a similar situation Bama was probably in with LSU. On the flip side to that, Trey, you and I talked at the very beginning of the football season that I thought Tennessee could afford. They beat us, by the way, but I said I think they can afford to lose 2 games, and that would be to Alabama and Georgia. Those 2 losses probably wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? Well, now here we are, and they've lost 1 game, and it's to a really unranked, probably pretty bad Arkansas team, right? So now they go lose to Georgia, which Georgia is not living up to what they thought they were going to live up to. I think we're in what I'm going to call another elimination game. I don't know if that's necessarily fair to Tennessee. I don't know if they're being very fair to Tennessee in this, but Trey, I don't think Tennessee's got a shot. And here's the thing. I want Tennessee to win. But Trey, I think Georgia's so mad this week. I don't think it matters if Nico's in or not. That's my feelings on it. I think Georgia's going to win the ball game.
Yeah, and here's what I've got some written down. Let's talk about the elimination part of it. I think it is an elimination game for Georgia. I don't know that it's necessarily elimination game for Tennessee. It's going to be hard for me to think that a 10-2 SEC team. I mean, it could be a problem for Tennessee. I don't see it.
Right.
No, if Tennessee gets blown out,
Right.
and cannot score against Georgia, that is going to be a problem because Tennessee's had a hard time scoring against anybody. That
Right.
probably won't look good to the panel up there. Definitely an elimination game for Georgia. Wendy, will Nico play is a huge factor. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I mean, it would just really surprise me that these two defenses are this good and they give up a bunch of points this game. I don't see that.
Right.
Georgia has simplified the offense. I don't
Yep.
know. Maybe they have simplified the offense, but simplify the offense. I think the one thing that Georgia has a problem with is they're having a hard time running the football. The
Yeah.
treble ETN guys hurt all the time. The other
Yep.
guy's a freshman. He fumbles all the time, and that's cool. I'm not banging on the players. That's what he is. So, I mean, Kirby Smart's like, well, how do we run the ball if we're worried about the guy fumbling and our best running back's
Right.
not in half the time? But can you simplify the offense a little bit, maybe Georgia, and run the football? And can Tennessee light it up? It's going to be a
Yeah.
great game. I look for it's just a crazy thing. There's nothing about Georgia that makes me want to pick them besides they're at home. So I will go. Let's go with
Well, that's
Georgia.
not what you said last week. That's not what you said last week when it was Georgia Ole Miss because you hate the basketball dunking sidelines. You didn't say that last week. Oh, how the tides have turned in 7 days.
I've watched Georgia and I'm like, oh my gosh, but they're at home. I'm still going to pick Georgia to win the game. I
Okay.
think it's going to be a
Okay.
great game. Well, Georgia's blasted Tennessee out of the water all of these past 4 or 5 years. I
Right.
mean, can this
Right.
be that bad of a defense? I don't think so. I'm still liking Georgia, Wendy.
Yeah, me too. But here's the deal. I will actually want Tennessee to win. I mean, I don't, at the end of the day, I think Tennessee, I think the committee came out and said that Tennessee's wins just really, they're not winning by a lot. You know what I mean? They're barely
Well, they're
winning.
ugly wins.
But here's the thing. I'm still from the old school of a win is a win. Like a win is still a win. They're still winning the game. They beat me. They beat Alabama. They've won these games. They beat Florida. Like they've won the games. I just feel like Trey. I look at it. You're gonna laugh. I look at it size. I just think Georgia's got more size on these guys, like literal size.
Who
I
wins
just
the
believe
game, Scooter?
Georgia does, and
Whoa!
I don't think it's going to be close, and I don't think it matters if Nico's in there or not. I really don't. I really don't. I don't think it matters if Nico's in there or not. So we'll see. It'll be a great game, though. The game of the day, in my opinion, is
Well,
that
yeah,
game.
and we'll go over some other games. Texas at Arkansas at 11 o'clock. Decent helmet game. Arkansas beat Texas
Yeah.
a couple years ago. Could be something. Alabama versus Mercer at 1 p.m. Alabama, go out there and handle business. Alabama plays
Yes.
Mercer at 1 p.m. No letdown. This game, I really think, will show you if this team has matured throughout the year. If we go out and handle business, let's do it. That's a positive sign. If we go out and fumble around, it could be a longer, these next 2 or 3 games could be something. LSU and
Right.
Florida, always a great game, always a great
Always.
helmet game. And I mean, I think that game is at Florida, which gives
Yeah.
Florida at least a hope and a prayer.
Yep.
Missouri and South Carolina, which is probably one of the games I want to see the most.
Yep.
Missouri, South Carolina. I will be pulling for Shane Beamer in South Carolina this weekend, Wendy. What do you say?
Oh, finally. Yeah. And let me just pop back to that LSU game. Listen, all Florida needs to do is watch the tape. LSU's defense cannot stop the run. I mean, it's just that simple. If you run the ball on LSU over and over and over again, you're eventually going to score. So if Florida's watching that game, Trey, I don't know if LSU can pull it out. I mean, obviously Florida's gimping in, guys. They're gimping in, but Florida might have a real chance that game. But the South Carolina Missouri game's interesting because who is this cocky coach from Missouri? Do you know his name?
Yeah. If you wouldn't have asked me, I would have been able to tell you.
Okay. Well, I don't love this guy. Like, so
No.
I'm kind of like not
No.
a fan of this Missouri coach. I feel like he's a little cocky. And so I'm looking for Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks to just go and master blast this guy in the mouth like we did and kind of calm him down a little bit. His cockiness drives me a little bit crazy. You're in the SEC. Sometimes he acts like he's 14, 15 years old. Getting ready to go play Fortnite with his
His
friends
name's
in the
Eli
yard.
Drinkowitz. Eli
Okay.
Drinkowitz. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's got a crappy name too. So I don't know. He reminds me of like that 14, 15-year-old kid playing like Fortnite, bashing people online because he's afraid to, do it in person. Like that's be a great guy. I don't know. I just don't like him.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for Shane Beamer to punch him in the mouth, either literally or by a football score. Either one would be
All
very,
right.
very entertaining.
All right, we're having a power glitch here, Wendy. I might have to jump off here. I don't know that I'm going to get to the other part. I got to get off here. Love you. See you next week.